Hello everyone. Can I just confirm that the live stream has commenced? Okay, I've got the thumbs up. Thank you very much. Hello everyone. I would like to acknowledge we're meeting on the lands of the Whadjuk Noongar people and to pay my respects to elders past and present, acknowledging that as the City of Vincent we have a role to play in working towards reconciliation and justice with First Nations people. Okay, so I've got one apology for tonight, and that's Councillor Warner. So if we could please note that. Public question time. Can I just confirm, is there anyone here who wishes to address the council during public question time? Okay, so we don't need to have public question time. Governance Manager, can you please confirm if any written statements have been received?
Yes, I can confirm that we received a written statement from Dudley Meyer of Highgate in relation to item 11.4, 10.1 and 10.2, and questions from Andrew Main of North Perth. Responses to those queries will be in the minutes of the next agenda.
Okay, so now I've got one application for leave of absence. So the application for leave of absence is from Councillor LaFontaine, who's seeking a leave of absence from the 1st to the 28th of June 2026. Do I have a mover for that? That's moved Councillor Castle. All those in favour? Okay, that's carried. Sorry? Oh, and a seconder, sorry. As seconded, Councillor Wolf. All those in favour? Okay, carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Are there any other applications for leave of absence? Okay, so we're moving on. So now we'll come to the receiving of petitions, deputations and presentations. I have approved, as the presiding member, a deputation from Stuart Neal from Slaven Architects, who's speaking in relation to item 9.1. So if you want to come forward, and you've got 5 minutes, we'll set it all up, and then you've got, so just wait till we're ready to go, and then you have got 5 minutes and we'll make sure that your presentation is ready as well. Sorry, could you just wait, because I want to make sure you get your full 5 minutes. Okay, good. So we've got the presentation on the screen. So over to you.
Thank you very much. Yes, thank you, Mayor Zaman, for approving this deputation to speak on agenda item 9.1. Yes, my name is Stuart Neal, Director at Slaven Architects. Firstly, the Redemptorists would like to thank the Council Administration for recommending approval for that part of the application to allow the modifications to the Western Car Park and Vincent Street driveway and footpaths. I would like to take this opportunity this evening to speak about those parts of the application that are recommended for refusal, namely being the construction of the 6 new dedicated residence car bays located on the east side of the main driveway, and the redevelopment of the soft landscape areas adjacent to the upgraded driveway and new residence car bays. The reasons for recommending refusal of these 2 elements in the report include materially affecting the park-like setting of the place, adversely impacting the cultural heritage significance of the place, and impacting visual amenity and character of the place. The report also identifies the existing trees contribute to the urban greening of the place and locality. So the first diagram that I have this evening shows the existing tree canopy, vehicle and pedestrian paths at the monastery, namely being the existing parking to the west of the church, the western entry to the church, which is currently under construction as part of stage 3, the new pedestrian refuges in front of the church and monastery, which are highlighted in yellow on that diagram, existing park-like setting to the south of the church and monastery, and the existing tree canopy to the eastern and northern parts of the property. The administration's objective to preserve the park-like setting of the monastery grounds and to maintain the urban greening of the place that it provides to the City of Vincent are strongly aligned with the long-term objectives of the Redemptorist Fathers. They are so much aligned, in fact, that prior to commencing the long-term redevelopment of the place, the Redemptorist Fathers developed a set of guiding principles that included preserving and improving the ability of the place to act as the lungs of the city. To meet the guiding principles and provide those lungs of the city, Should any trees be removed, the Redemptorist Fathers are committed to replacing a minimum of 2 trees for every tree removed. Whilst the Redemptorist Fathers are committed to the long-term improvement of the monastery, resources are limited, including those needed for the ongoing maintenance of the buildings and grounds. Currently, the Redemptorist Fathers have the capacity to undertake the improvements forming this application. However, future resources may prevent structures and grounds from being adequately maintained, and therefore it is an imperative to undertake the works that will ensure extending the life of the place. This includes new plantings not just for this generation, but for at least another 120 years. Could I have the next slide, please? Thank you. So this second site plan shows the new resident parking located close to the monastery entrance to the east of the driveway, which will provide safe access for elderly residents of the monastery, and also shows the extent of the new trees to be planted to increase the overall tree canopy for the next 120 years at the monastery. It also shows informal overflow parking for large events such as Easter and Christmas. That parking is located in the northern, what's known as the paddock. If I could have the next slide, please. This last slide demonstrates the potential tree canopy and the completed parking in context. You'll note that the park-like setting is maintained, the cultural heritage of the place is improved by the removal of vehicles parked against the monastery and church, and the property continues to contribute to the urban greening of the City of Vincent. In summary, if Council are unable to approve the new residence parking and redevelopment of the soft landscaping to the driveway this evening, we request a decision on the residence parking and landscaping be postponed until further consultation be undertaken between Council administration and the Redemptorist Fathers to reach a mutually acceptable outcome. We do, of course, hope that the report recommendation to approve the Western car park and other parts of the application are completed this evening. So I thank you for your time and the consideration of this application.
Okay, thank you very much, and bang on 5 minutes too. Very well done. Okay, so now we'll move to the confirmation of minutes. Move that the minutes of the ordinary meeting held on the 21st of April 2026 be confirmed. Do we have a mover for that? So that's moved by Councillor Castle, seconded by Councillor Wolfe. All those in favour? Okay, that's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, so then I just want to make some announcements. I'm pleased that last week we were finally able to get changes to some of the speed limits on a couple of the roads, most notably Lord Street, which has gone from 60 kilometres an hour down to 50 kilometres an hour, and Vincent Street, the area between William and Beaufort Street, finally went from 50 down to 40 k's, which is long overdue and makes it consistent in terms of its proximity to Hyde Park and as a high pedestrian area. I want to note that this didn't happen easily. This happened after, this is an issue that we have been advocating for at least 2 years with main roads, and nor is it the end of the discussions that we are having with main roads about trying to slow down a number of distributor roads. We're very clear here at the City of Vincent that 60 kilometre roads are intended to be the exception rather than the rule. And that really, when I say that, we're maybe talking about East Parade, Charles Street and Loftus Street as very high traffic corridors. But other than that, there is an expectation that we should be able to significantly lower the speed limits around the rest of our distributor roads all around Vincent. Councillors are also aware that as part of the ongoing discussions with the main roads that we have already raised with them and have been talking to them about the possibility of also having 30 kilometre an hour limits within many of our local roads, that this is not a new idea, nothing that's particularly novel, something instead that we have been in discussions with main roads for quite some time. We are pleased that Main Roads allowed us to take the lead in terms of the trial for the 40-kilometre limit, and that is now permanent. But that is also not something that happened very easily, and I am aware that Main Roads now have a particular interest in focusing on trying to roll out more 40-kilometre-hour speed limits on a number of highly congested inner city roads as well, and that's certainly something that's being pushed quite heavily as part of the Perth inner city group. While we understand that Main Roads want to focus on the rollout of 40-kilometre zones, and we're highly supportive of that, we here at Vincent, as a council that continues to take the lead, will keep pushing for what we believe is right for our community, and as such we will keep pushing to look at more of our local roads that can go down to 30 kilometres. We're getting close to almost 700 traffic warrants that have been undertaken here in the city of Vincent. We're going to talk tonight. We've got the proposal in front of us around how we're going to look at local area traffic management. But what we know is that a number of our roads that currently have been identified as requiring various built form speed limiting measures could also really do with just having a lower speed limit, and that actually would take some of the pressure off and some of the time imperatives in terms of the installation of various traffic treatments. So it's a solution, as I say, that we have been pushing for behind the scenes for quite some time and will continue to. And on that note, I also note we've got areas where we're pushing for 20 kilometres, and I think particularly of the Oxford Street Town Centre, which is heaving over particularly on a Friday and a Saturday night, where we have heavy pedestrian activity and could well and truly use slowing down to at least 20 kilometres an hour, if not eventually closing that particular part of Leederville. I particularly want to acknowledge and thank those residents who over the last couple of years have been prepared to work so constructively with me and with the council in terms of those lobbying activities. They have been able to work very, very collaboratively, and I'm really very grateful to them. I feel like I should name some of those individuals who've been really helpful, but I won't because I haven't got their permission to say their names. But thank you so much to them. And also a huge thank you to those residents who continue to work so collaboratively and so constructively with the council as we all work together as one community to try to make sure that we are slowing down the traffic in the city of Vincent, that we are hopefully limiting the amount of rat running. I'd love to have it eliminated completely, but certainly limiting that and making sure that Vincent can continue to prioritise pedestrian activity and also alternative forms of transport as safe ways to get around our cities. So in the meantime, I'm just really glad that Lord Street is slowing down, and I'm looking forward to getting more road signs up to indicate that. And I thank once again the amazing work that's been done by the engineering team in terms of their discussions with Main Roads and their persistence at ensuring that this was not off the agenda at any given point. Okay, so we'll move to the declarations of interest. CEO, could you please read out the declarations of interest that have already been submitted?
Through you, Mayor Zaman, as per last week, Councillor Poulos declared a financial interest in relation to item 11.5 on event sponsorship, noting that he is a life member of Athena Football Club that is being recommended for a grant. Councillor Castle declared an impartiality interest in relation to the same item 11.5, noting that she is friends with the organiser of one of the events that applied for funding in this sponsorship round. Councillor Wolf declared an impartiality interest as well on the same item 11.5, noting that she met with one of the applicants a year ago to discuss the broad concept of the event, but has had no involvement in the grant application. And Councillor Whedon declared a financial interest in relation to item 13.1, which is the notice of motion, public health advertising restrictions and advocacy. The extent of his interest is that he is a licensee of several liquor licensed venues and CEO shareholder of an alcohol production company which has a relationship with and utilises OO Media. And that's all that I've received.
Do I have any other conflicts of interest which need to be declared? Okay, so the item which has already been the subject of the deputation is 9.1. So, councillors, I'm going to go around and ask if there's any other particular items that people wish to speak to. Councillor Wallace.
No, thank you, Mayor.
Councillor LaFontaine.
10.1. Thank you, Mayor.
That was 10.1? Yep, okay. Councillor Greer.
9.2, 11.4 and 13.1.
Okay, Councillor Castle.
11.6. I think that's it.
Okay. Councillor Whedon. So I've already got 9.2, 10.1, 11.4, 11.6 and 13.1. And of course 9.1. Sorry, we already had that one too. Yep.
In that case, I'm good.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wolf.
10.2 and 11.5, please.
10.2 and 11.5. Councillor Poulios.
11.8.
11.8. Okay, so all of mine have been covered off as well. So I'm just going to work out which ones can be...
My apologies.
Yes?
Mayor,
No, that's fine.
'cause it's not on my list here. 12.3.
Oh, yes, of course. Sorry about that. Councillor Castle, 12.3. Okay, no worries. And so I'm just going to work out which items can be passed on block. Okay, so Governance Manager, would you like to read out the items that are proposed to be passed on block?
Confirming the following items are proposed to be moved on block: 11.1, 11.2, 11.3, 11.7, 12.1 and 12.2.
Okay, do I have a mover for that? That's moved Councillor LaFontaine, seconded Councillor Castle. Sorry, all those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, so now I'm going to go to item 1, which is 9.1, and that's number 188 Vincent Street, North Perth, proposed alterations and additions to a place of worship. Do I have a mover for this? Moved by Councillor Poulios, seconded by Councillor Castle. So, Councillor Poulios, do you wish to speak to this?
Yeah, I'd like to thank the delegation that invited us to have a site visit yesterday. It was quite insightful to get not just look at it on a PDF that we're seeing on our computer or on the screen there, but to see it in the sort of context of the whole site, which is a very big site, and to see the sort of loggerheads and those parts that are sort of being refused, seeing if we can come to sort of some sort of outcome. I guess I understand the need for the monastery to sort of execute their vision and sort of showcase the heritage to the whole community, and their vision. So it'd be interesting to see what the other councillors think, but I'd be supportive of maybe deferring the sort of the items that were declined in the report. But yeah, I'll wait to hear what the other councillors' thoughts are on that, just to give a bit more clarity and just get a win-win outcome for everyone. So yeah.
Councillor Castle.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question relating to what Councillor Poulias just referred to. In the gallery, in the deputation, it was requested that if Council was of a mind to follow the recommendation and refuse part of the application, could that portion be deferred for future discussions and consideration by Council? My question is that possible for us to do procedurally, to split the item and then decide on one part and defer the other?
Through you, Mayor Zaman. So the recommendation is split into two parts. Part one is the approval for certain components of the development. Part two is for refusal of the remaining parts of the development. It is open to council to amend the recommendation to retain part one and make amendments to part two of the recommendation to request further information be provided and considered by council at a later date.
Thank you. I suppose my question is that done by an amendment, or is that done by splitting the motion and a procedural motion on part of it? That might be a question for governance. While governance is thinking about that, let me riff for a while. No, what I will do is say that as it currently stands, I support the officer's recommendation. So I think that the improvements that have been recommended for approval seem very reasonable and very happy to support that. I don't support the removal of the trees and the introduction of the car park as is currently proposed. I think there is obviously a balance around preserving the heritage and showcasing that to its best ability, but I think that the trees that are on the site are an integral part of that whole property, and I don't think, even though we might see some long-term gain in canopy coverage with replacement of 2-to-1 trees, what we will lose in the short term is too great. So if we were to decide on this matter currently, with no amendment and no other splitting, my position would be to support it as written, but I would be very open to considering deferral of the second part if there's more discussions that could be had to maybe reach a mutually agreeable decision. Was that long enough?
Through the chair, it could be a procedural motion. It will get messy because we don't typically split out the recommendation into its individual parts. We can certainly try to facilitate that tonight to enable you to consider the two parts to the recommendation, or alternatively an amendment might be available that could be shown to the members that captures more neatly what is maybe being considered.
I suppose the follow-up question is, what would be the impact, this is probably hard for administration to answer, the impact on the applicant if we were to defer the entire item?
Through you, Mayor Zaman, obviously I can't speak on behalf of the applicant. However, I understand that they have a program of works that they're trying to work toward that includes some of the components of the approval parts of our recommendation, and I believe that would have an impact on their ability to deliver those within their current timeframes that they're looking to work towards.
Thank you. I might see what other councillors have to say and give some thought to some words for an amendment.
So, Governance Manager, you wish to make some further comments?
Just to further clarify through the chair, in relation to the deferral, the way that the regulation is written is you'll only be able to state that you want to defer the item and set a time for it return to council, as opposed to being able to add some information about why you're seeking the deferral and what the outcome is that you're trying to achieve.
Okay, is there anyone further that wants to comment on this? Councillor Greer.
Thank you. I also want to express my appreciation for the site visit yesterday. It was really incredible to see the custodianship of the site that you have and the significant works you've done to date and what you're seeking today. Similar to Councillor Castle, I would support the item as written, but I am open to us deferring section 2. I think what I learnt yesterday is it is quite integral to the schedule of works to have part 1 kind of off and going as soon as possible. It's very clear that the community that use the space would like to get back to using the space in its full way, and I can appreciate that. So I guess what I'm seeing based on the conversation so far is I would like to see a way that we can support part 1 and defer part 2 to see if we can come up with a solution that enables the car parking without removing of the trees.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Wolfe.
Thank you, Mayor. I do really appreciate the engagement of the applicant that's been part of the City of Vincent and the City of Perth for over 120 years, as we heard. As written, I also do support the officer recommendation, but would be very open to consider that deferral in part. In terms of the recommendation as written, I fully accept that those improved views are relevant to the decision, but when we are talking about the removal of mature, healthy trees, to me those trees make a really great contribution to amenity, to the heritage, and what makes this site a really unique, tranquil oasis in the middle of our hustling, bustling inner city suburb. In terms of the deferral, I would actually be quite keen on that for the reasons that we've been discussing tonight. But also I'm aware that there were a number of councillors who weren't able to make the site visit as it occurred during work hours, myself included. So if it would provide that opportunity for another site visit, I would be very keen on that.
Does anyone else wish to speak to the item? Okay, so I'm going to just make some comments. I think it's quite important that if people are supportive of the first part of this proposal, that we do seek to actually at least pass that tonight. The reason being that their works, I understand, are scheduled to try to be completed by Christmas time, which is a holy season, and so let's try to ensure that we're enabling the church to be able to do that. I understand that Councillor Poulios, you may have the proposed amendment about potentially deferring the second part of the proposal, which is at the moment proposed to refuse. And I understand from discussions that the proposal is not to endorse it, but to actually say, well, let's see if can be further discussions had to see whether the second part of the proposal if there's something that can be achieved in order to be able to facilitate, in particular, the car park and see what can potentially happen around the canopy. So that is my understanding. But I'm personally quite keen to ensure that the first part of the proposal is passed tonight. I think that's fair and reasonable, particularly as it has been recommended for approval. So, Councillor Poulios, did you have that proposed amendment?
I don't have specific wording, but yeah, it's I don't know how we would write it, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, can I suggest if councillors, we don't have the wording in front of us, but can we just see if we can put together a form of words that's going to amend that proposal to enable the second part? Now, if you are able to put it up on the big screen so that it can be seen rather than looking at myself. I know, I can't read that. I mean, I've got bionic eyes, but not that good. So rather than saying refuses, so perhaps at point 2 the amendment might read postpones, recommends postponing the final decision on part 2. If I don't have the wording in front of me, so I'm riffing here. To be to postpones. Yeah, I'm trying to see it.
Could the wording be defers consideration of?
I'm more than happy,
That work?
Councillor, to take proposals for the amendment.
Would that work?
Yep, thank you.
Through you, Mayor Zaman, administration's drafted some wording preempting this consideration that can be modified. So ultimately, what it shows is the portions of the recommendation that would be deleted and some introduction of wording based on the planning regulations that allows for additional information to be provided. So you can make a decision, and then it steps through and specifies the details that would need to be submitted as part of a landscaping sort of proposal. I'm filling time until we can share it on the screen. I'm happy to give you an opportunity to review first, and then maybe we can talk about it.
Can I ask a question about that, Director? The brief glimpse I got was setting out reasons for requesting more information and what particular information would be requested. Does that presuppose an outcome that might be acceptable? I suppose at this point the discussion is to keep it broad, that there may be another completely different proposal that satisfies the needs of the applicant and is more acceptable to council. So my concern would just be that we limit ourselves too much if we're too prescriptive, but I'm also guided by you if we need to have a level of specificity in that.
Through you, Mayor Zaman. So the way we've drafted the potential alternate recommendation is to give some direction around the type of information that administration might need to provide a different recommendation. However, that doesn't guarantee that the subsequent recommendation would be supportive. Some of the discussions that we have had with the applicant in the lead up to this meeting and over the assessment timeframe is actually captured in this alternate recommendation. So information that we believe would have been beneficial to be included in this report in the first place is captured in this. We aren't trying to be prescriptive with certain tree numbers or certain species. It's about trying to provide clear guidance to the applicant so that we can be effective in our response to council with our next report.
Thank you, that makes sense.
Okay, so we've got a proposed amendment in front of us. So can I ask firstly, Councillor Pouliot, is this the amendment that you're prepared to move?
Yep.
Okay. Can I first see if there's a seconder to this amendment? So that's seconded by Councillor Castle. Councillor Pouliot, do you wish to speak to this amendment?
I think it's clear that it's a decision that we should push back and maybe all the councillors have the opportunity to come and have that site visit, because I think it was quite enlightening to be there rather than not. So I think that'll give everyone sort of a bit more of a better look at the whole site and get an understanding, and try and get a win-win for all parties, I guess, the community and the monastery and the city. So yeah. Yep. Councillor
Castle?
Just briefly, thank you, administration, for preparing that and for working through that tricky question. I'm supportive of this. I think it would be beneficial for both parties if we can try and find a solution rather than a straight refusal of what was proposed. I am very hopeful that there'll be more discussions and there'll be a proposal that comes forward with this information that might be more acceptable.
Does anyone else wish to speak to the amendment? Yeah, I wish to make the comment that I'm persuaded that additional parking is actually required in order with just the 6 parking bays to go to the side. I am keen to see if there is some way that that can be moved forward to try to look at maintaining and also enhancing the tree canopy and the various options that might be made available. I think that the original reasons for refusal were sound, but I think that we can potentially look at what other creative ways we could move forward and to ensure that we can achieve outcomes that are going to serve both the monastery and the community, as well as meeting the priorities of council, of which tree canopy is and maintenance of that is a very clear one. Does anyone else wish to speak on the amendment then? Councillor Poulios, you happy for the amendment to be put? Okay, so I'll put that amendment. All those in favour? Okay, that's carried unanimously. Thank you. So now we'll move back to the substantive amended motion. So the proposal, of course, incorporates approval for the first part, and we've agreed to look at postponement for the second. Does anyone who hasn't spoken on the substantive wish to speak on that? Okay, Councillor Poulios, do you wish to say anything in conclusion? Okay, I'm going to put the amended proposal. All those in favour? Okay, that's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, so now I move to 9.2, which is the outcome of advertising and adoption of the city's public health plan. And so I'm seeking a mover. Moved Councillor Greer. Is there a seconder for this? Seconded by Councillor Wallace. Okay, Councillor Greer, do you wish to speak?
Thank you, Mayor Zaman, and I really just wanted to say thank you for the huge amount of work that's gone into this plan. It covers our entire city in so many ways, and it's a real milestone moment to be here after all the public consultation. This plan will see us from today through to 2031, and I'm really grateful as well that we've got a lot of space for future actions fitting amongst these big pillars, because I feel like a lot has changed in the last 5 years, and a lot will change over the next 5 years as well. I'd really like to acknowledge that we've got 2 key strategic priority areas in this plan, focusing on mental health and the impact of the climate and biodiversity crisis on public health. I'd also like to especially acknowledge the plans around mosquito-borne diseases. As the plan shares, we're seeing more and more mosquitoes in our area, particularly around our river areas, and I look forward to seeing what actions we can do under this plan to address the increase in mosquitoes and mitigate those health risks. As is often the way, people don't think about the importance of public health until something goes wrong. And I want to acknowledge that the topics and priority areas in our plan really put our Vincent values into action. And they make Vincent a wonderful place to live, with things like keeping people safe, supporting our vulnerable population groups, our playgrounds, our tree canopies. So I'm very pleased to support this plan. Thank you for your work on it.
Councillor Wallace?
Nothing really to add. Really well said by Councillor Greer, and it's a significant piece of work, so thank you to administration. Happy to support.
Does anyone else wish to speak to this? I'm personally really delighted with this public health plan. As someone who has worked in the area of suicide prevention, mental health, and also climate change for that matter for decades, it feels like a really important piece of work, and I'm so delighted at the response that it has also received from our community and also our stakeholders. Once again, we are looking to be leaders in this space, and for that I am very proud to be part of Vincent, and thank you so much to the team for the work that you've done in developing this. I know that implementation is always the hard part, and I know that there is a great deal of thinking already that is going into how this is going to be implemented, so I just wanted to also offer my thanks for that. Does anyone else wish to speak on this? Councillor Greer, do you wish to say anything in conclusion? Okay, I'll put the proposal. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, so now I'm going to move to 10.1, approval to advertise local area traffic management policy standard amendment. Do I have a mover for this? Moved by Councillor LaFontaine. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Whedon. Okay, Councillor LaFontaine.
Thank you, Mayor. I will not be supporting this policy. I thank admin for the updates since this was first proposed, and you can see there's a lot of work's been done on the policy since it was first presented at the workshops. And I want to make it clear that I am very supportive of prioritising safety on our roads. However, I feel that the debate should remain with council to enable us to represent our current ratepayers and residents. Furthermore, I feel this policy limits the community input. I refer to the policy which states that community feedback will be considered where possible, but must not compromise safety, effectiveness, or policy compliance. Thank
you. Councillor Whedon?
I was intending to support the motion. Yeah, I think we've done some good work on this, and I like the clear lines that we are setting and not over stimulating community expectation as to what we can achieve as a council. I mean, as you spoke about earlier, Mayor, 30 km/h zones, that would be amazing. It's going to make all our lives a lot easier and reduce limits and make everything safer. But that is out of our hands, you know, for the time being. And I think the things that are there, we can do a lot, but we also can't necessarily do everything everyone wants. And I think this sets out a good standard for that to ensure that we're keeping the most at-risk roads safe.
Does anyone else wish to speak to this item? Councillor Castle.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm supportive of this policy going out for community consultation, and thank the manager and the team for an enormous amount of work in working with council for what it has become a more and more complex area for us and for our administration to deal with. I think, as we all know, we quite frequently are contacted by the community about traffic concerns, and it is a very difficult problem for council to solve with the limited resources that we have and the levers that we can pull. I think this policy is a great improvement in setting the guidelines and the expectations on how council can manage those requests and the works that need to be done. But I look forward to hearing what the community has to say about it.
Does anyone else wish to speak on this item? Councillor Wolf.
Thank you, Mayor. Similar to Councillor Castle and Councillor Whedon, I also am supportive of this item and this policy going out for community consultation. And thank administration for all the work that's gone into this. It has been a journey for us to get to this point, and it has been a lot of conversation and a lot of work. The reason I'm supportive of it is because it includes a community voice, but it also balances that need to be very careful with our resourcing and how we act on those community input. So I am supportive of this item going out for consultation.
Does anyone else wish to speak? I wish to speak. I'm very supportive of this going out for public consultation. We'll get an idea from the community what their thoughts are about that. One of the massive challenges we have here at council is addressing the fact that we have got so many road treatments that need to be undertaken and very, very limited resources, and that we are so dependent on external funding in order to be able to deliver the road treatments that we need, which is why there has been so much emphasis on those measures which we hope will assist, such as dealing with speed limits, such as looking at how we use our yellow lines and parking and all the things that we are doing to try to just slow traffic down and to keep things as safe as possible. One of the huge challenges we have, of course, is that every time we get approached by residents who want to have road treatments in their road, they are convinced that they are the single most important street in all of Vincent that has to be given the number one priority over absolutely everybody else in Vincent, even if we are looking at other streets where people have been killed, either pedestrians, bikes or cars. So what this does is it helps to put a clear, objective framework around this, around our priorities in terms of roadworks, so that we are ensuring that as councillors we're not simply responding to those people who manage to lobby the most effectively, but that we are ensuring that we are dealing with the most dangerous points in Vincent as a matter of priority. However, we'll wait to see what the public says. If the community sentiment is no, we want resources to go to whoever manages to scream the loudest rather than where it's the most dangerous, then that will be interesting feedback to receive. So I really support this going out for community consultation, and I hope that it helps us to be able to ensure that we are being clear, methodical and objective moving forward as we prioritise our road treatments. Anyone else wish to speak to this item? Councillor LaFontaine, do you wish to say anything in conclusion? Okay, I'm going to put the item. All those in favour? Okay, all those against? Okay, and that's Councillor LaFontaine has voted against. Okay, so now we'll move on to the next item. The next item is Safe Trading Site 62 Frame Court Car Park, Leederville. Do I have a mover for this? Councillor Wolfe. Do I have a seconder for this? Seconded by Councillor Wallace. Thank you. So, Councillor Wolfe.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you so much to Administration for bringing forward this report in response to my notice of motion from December. And special mention again to Councillor Susie Migdale from the City of Stirling, who first brought this concept to WA from Victoria. The initiative is seeking to really increase security for those engaged in online trading, and it couldn't have come at a more important time in terms of this report, because just over the weekend, police were warning residents to be extra careful following a string of burglaries in the southern suburbs, and those burglaries were specifically linked to online trading. So people had been coming past on the pretense of having a look at a bike or another item, not buying it, and then coming back and engaging in a string of burglaries of those items and other items in those homes. So yeah, it's very important and couldn't have come at a better time. In terms of the particular site that's being recommended, I think that it does meet most of the criteria that were laid out in the original notice of motion. There's quality CCTV, there's lighting, it's near parking, it's near public transport in a busy public area. And as a bonus, there's an op shop just up the street for any items that aren't sold and that people want to give away. Whilst there isn't a dedicated bench at the site directly adjacent to the sign, I'm aware there is plenty of seating under cover just behind it. So I'm really pleased, just to mention as well, that we discussed at the briefing that should the item be approved tonight, there will be some further engagement with WA Police, with the City of Stirling, and when a tenant is installed in the building adjacent with that tenant as well. I hope that we do see good uptake should the item be passed tonight, but also just having the safe trading site there, I think, would bring some comfort and some extra safety for the community in that it can act as a real deterrent. So if somebody's seeking to meet at somebody's home and that person says, no, let's meet at the safe trading site, and the other party refuses to do so, that's a massive red flag. So in terms of the benefit, I hope that we see good use, but there's inherent benefit in just having the site as well. So very supportive of the officer recommendation. Thank you.
Councillor Wallace?
Thank you, Mayor Simon. Yeah, thanks to Councillor Wolf for bringing this one forward in the first instance. I think it's a really good idea. And yeah, admin's done a good job of putting this proposal together, so happy to support.
Does anyone else wish to speak to this item? Councillor Wolf, anything in conclusion? Okay, I'm going to put the item. All those in favour? Okay, carried unanimously. Thank you very much. So now I'm going to move on to 11.4, Differential Rating Strategy 2026-2027. Do we have a mover? Moved Councillor Greer and seconded Councillor Whedon. I was going to say, sorry about that. Councillor Greer.
Thank you, Mayor Zamon. I've just got a couple of questions on this first. There's been a comment in the public questions that we've received in writing today asking which groups of short-term rental accommodation the differential rate may apply to. I'm questioning if it's unhosted or all short-term accommodations. I was just hoping to clarify that, please.
Through you, Mayor Zamon, it'll be unhosted accommodation.
Thank you very much. I know we've spoken about this previously, but I just wanted to ask for an update on the work that we're doing to ensure that those unhosted short-term accommodations who are operating without the necessary approval, what we're doing to get those folks registered, so this would apply to them.
Through you, Mayor Zamon, our compliance team is aware of those uses, unhosted short-term rental accommodation, that do require planning approval because they've exceeded the 90 days of use. So we do have a registration system. The state has introduced that, and so we do have visibility, and we are tracking those, and we're staging that out as a program to make sure that we're taking that enforcement action and inviting applications where there is a prospect of approval.
Great, thank you very much for that. More broadly, I do just want to speak to the differential rates for the short-term accommodation rather than the whole piece. I do think this goes some way to acknowledge that these properties are a commercial property. They're no longer residential and they're in a residential zone. I think it's fair that they contribute what is really a small amount, as detailed in the report, and we've heard from the community there's increased waste, amongst other things, and this small additional contribution will go a long way to making Vincent a welcoming place for the visitors that will use those properties. We've seen other councils look to implement similar mechanisms, and I think it's reasonable for Vincent to offer the same proposition, and I look forward to hearing what people think.
Councillor Whedon.
Yeah, I would like to thank administration for this, and as a new councillor who went through this process first time, how thorough and inclusive I felt the process was. To get to this point, I think we've settled on some very sustainable numbers. I think we're targeting certainly the right priorities within council. Councillor Greer is right. Unhosted short-term accommodation is a commercial use of property, and thus it does sit separately to residential. I think that's a really great standout for us, and yeah, very happy to see the variable rates there. Certainly charging vacant property more helps our residents. So I think we've hit an excellent balance here, and thank you for your work.
Does anyone else wish to speak on this item? Councillor Castle.
Thank you, Mayor. I echo those comments about the process that we've been through, the budget process. It gets more streamlined every year. So I very much thank the team for the amount of work that goes into getting us to this point and to next month, foreshadowing the big decisions on the budget. I am very happy to support our differential rating strategy going out for advertising. I think that we're all aware of the various pressures on both our community and on council, and the costs in doing business and in keeping the city and improving the city to the standard that's expected by residents and ratepayers. I think this strikes a good balance in responsibly managing and planning for the work that needs to be done without being too onerous on the community, noting that every 3 years we have our GRV revaluation, which always throws a cat amongst the pigeons and makes things a lot more complex. So it's always a challenge, but I think we've really struck a good balance here, and I look forward to hearing from the community on it.
Does anyone else wish to speak on this item? Councillor Ward.
Thank you, Mayor. Echo all the previous comments, and I'm very supportive of this item moving forward. I just wanted to add an additional comment around the higher rate increase for vacant properties. Interestingly, I was walking up and down Mount Hawthorn this time last week and having a chat with residents and business owners, and time after time the issue that was coming up was, what can we do about the vacant properties? Can we change the law? What can we do? This is a very clear lever that we are able to pull to encourage development of those residential vacant properties. And we do hear people saying that, well, why should the rates increase because those vacant properties aren't utilising our services? The opposite is fundamentally true. We are spending so much time, so much energy, and so much of our ratepayers' resources dealing with the issues arising from these vacant properties, dealing with the graffiti, dealing with the antisocial behaviour, dealing with the increased waste that we're seeing, the public health issues arising. So I'm extremely supportive of that higher rate increase for the vacant properties especially.
I'd like to echo the comments that Councillor Wolf just made. My sadness is that we can't look at full cost recovery for having to deal with the excessive burden that gets put on all the ratepayers by those vacant properties that are left vacant for such huge periods of time and do attract such antisocial behaviour and also littering and the like. It creates an enormous burden. So this is at least the most that we can hope to possibly get, and to try to address that financial burden, which unfortunately has been shifted to those people who live here and pay their rates. Okay, anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Okay, so Councillor Greer, do you wish to say anything in conclusion? Okay, I'm going to put this. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you very much. So now I'm going to get on to item 11.5, Event Sponsorship 2026-2027. Do I have a mover for this? Moved, Councillor. Oh, sorry, beg your pardon. Councillor Poulios, yes, you have a financial interest you need to leave. Sorry about that. Okay, so we've got a mover, so moved Councillor Wolf. Do we have a seconder for this? Seconded Councillor Castle. Councillor Wolf, do you wish to speak?
Thank you, Mayor. Firstly, thank you to all the applicants who spent their time preparing event sponsorship applications for the upcoming financial year, and to the team within admin who evaluated it and prepared the report for today. I support the officer recommendation. Following a really rigorous evaluation process, I think we've landed on a really solid mix of successful applicants in what will shape up to be a really exciting year in the events calendar, alongside the events that our internal events team continue to put on to an exceptionally high standard. I note that for some of the applicants who've been recommended for in-kind support, some of those conversations are ongoing around the specific nature of that support, and that's okay. Subject to those conversations then being finalised, I do also encourage all applicants really to seek feedback on their applications, particularly those who were not successful this time. Previously, we have sometimes seen people put in an application for a really good idea, perhaps that just wasn't pitched quite right, and they never put in another application. So definitely encourage those applicants to seek feedback on why and continue that process into the future, because there are some really, really good ideas that we do see coming through. Our events really do mean so much to the community. They're where our art and our culture flourish. It's where people connect, and it really is where our memories are made at these events. So encourage attendance by all community members to the upcoming calendar for the next financial year.
Councillor Castle.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm also supportive of the officer recommendation. I'm really excited to see the list of events we have planned for the year, and look forward to visiting many of them and hearing about the ones I can't make it to. It's so good to see the way these events cross so many different demographics, different locations around Vincent, different scales, offering different points of view and experiences for the community. I think that the event culture in Vincent has long been an important pillar and it's something that council is known for. And so this is always an exciting time to approve the events for the next year. I want to really thank administration for the huge amount of work that goes into assessing these applications and managing the administration and the delivery of many of them throughout the year, alongside all the events that you organise yourselves. So I'm looking forward to seeing these all come to fruition, and very happy to support.
Does anyone else wish to speak on this item? Okay, Councillor Wolf, do you wish to say anything in conclusion? Put the item. All those in favour? Okay, carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Do you want to invite Councillor Poulios back into the chamber? Okay, so now I move to 11.6, which is adoption of the long-term financial plan, 26-27 to 2035-2036. Okay, so do I have a mover? Moved Councillor Castle. Do I have a seconder for this? Seconded by Councillor Poulios. Thank you. So Councillor Castle.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be brief. I'm very happy to support this. This is obviously an annual process we go through where we reevaluate the long-term financial plan. I'm really happy to support the changes that we've made here. There's, as we talked about with the differential rating strategy, there's increasing pressures, there's a change in the environment from last year, and this plan reflects that. I think it's a very sensible plan going forward. It has some good bones to it that allow for the fluctuations that we'll hopefully not see too many of in the next few years, but inevitably we will, and set some expectations for the community around what the plans are for council going forward. So very happy to support.
Councillor Poulios.
Yeah, likewise. I'm happy to support this. A lot of good work done by the finance team, always winning awards and just keeping the finances ticking along nicely. So it's yeah, that's all I've got to add.
Does anyone else wish to speak to this item? Okay, Councillor Castle. Any? Okay, I'll put the item. All those in favour? Okay, carried unanimously. And I just need to note that Councillor Lafontaine needed to briefly leave the chamber, but so was not here for that item. Okay, so then I'll move on to 11.8, which is the Christmas lights installations. So do we have a mover? Moved Councillor Wolf, seconded by Councillor Poulios. Councillor Wolf.
Thank you to admin for the report and for the additional info in the briefing notes regarding what the city has spent on Christmas light installations in previous years. It was good to confirm that the current tender is broadly in line with that expenditure in previous years. And I was also pleased to read in the briefing notes that the successful tenderer has confirmed that the decorations can be substituted on a like-for-like basis from year to year, and that way our decorations will be consistent but still very fresh. So with 220 days until Christmas, I support the recommendation.
Councillor Poulios.
Yeah, no, I just had a bit of the questioning that came prior to the meeting. It wasn't clear in the briefing report that it was for 3 years. So yeah, I got a bit sort of in a fluster, thinking that was a 1 year tender and how much it increased, but it's not the case, which is good. So yeah, I'm happy to support the awarding of the tender, I guess. Yeah.
And I will note, Councillor Poulios, that you have circulated a proposed amendment, which is on the yellow.
Yeah, it's more just clarifying that point that I
yeah,
had
so which
this
is
afternoon.
which
Yep.
yeah. So did you wish to move that amendment and speak to the amendment?
Yep. Yeah.
So you wish to move the amendment?
Yeah, move the amendment.
Can I have a seconder for that amendment, please? Seconded, Councillor Wolf. Did you wish to speak to the amendment?
Yeah, so basically, like I said before, it's just a bit of clarification in there, which clears everything up, which if someone from the community was reading the report, they probably would have got the same panic that I did. So, yeah, no, just clarify that and, yeah, propose that amendment.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak to the amendment? Okay, I'm going to put the amendment. All those in favour? Okay, carried unanimously, thank you. So now we're looking at the amended motion in front of us. Councillor Poulios, you concluded your remarks in relation to the proposal?
Yeah, no, I think it's fair, the increase compared to the previous years. And yeah, no, that's pretty much all I've got to say on that.
Does anyone else wish to speak to this item? Councillor Greer?
Thank you, Mayor Zamon, and thank you, Councillor Poulios, for that amendment, which is a great clarification. I'm happy to support the recommendation because of those who submitted the tender. The submission from the Factory Australia does have the greatest percentage of the budget going towards the lights rather than administration fees. I mentioned at the briefing last week that I have still got some concerns about the lights being installed early, perhaps as early November. And with the increased risk of vandalism, I would like to see what we can do about making that later November than early. I also understand the list of locations in the brief is not an exclusive list, and I understand the need to have power is often a limiting factor, but I would really like to see more of the Christmas lights in areas that we don't often have them, closer to Northbridge, William Street, Beaufort Street and in Mount Lawley. I think across the 3 years we could really do with spreading it out so everyone gets a bit of Christmas joy. Otherwise, I'm happy to support.
I'd like to echo the comments that have been made by Councillor Greer. I recognise that we have historically had areas which receive quite a lot of attention. I do note, for example, Braithwaite Park receives a lot of attention, but then I also want to acknowledge and thank Mount Hawthorn Baptist Church and Mount Hawthorn Community Church, who do such a fantastic job of running the carols by candlelight every single year, which is very, very well attended by the community, and I understand that that is one of the key reasons why the City of Vincent will invest in lights, particularly in Braithwaite Park. I'm also aware that there are members of the community that would like us to have Christmas displays similar to that of the City of Perth. I confirm that when we have revenue streams that are consistent with the City of Perth, I would certainly be very keen to advocate for a similar Christmas displays. Perhaps if we take over the City of Perth, we can utilise their money to be able to light up the City of Vincent, which will then be the broader City of Perth, I might add. But I do want to make the comment as well, as Councillor Greer has already alluded to, that there are entire areas of Vincent that have never received Christmas lights. I think about East Parade, which is one of the key entrances to the City of Vincent and Wandoulia. I think about Lord Street, now 50 kilometres an hour, excellent. I think about North Claysbrook, where we're starting to make sure that we're focusing more attention and is going to be having more people. I think about William Street, I think about the lower part of Beaufort Street. All of these areas, Birdwood Square, World Square, are areas that have a lot of people living around there but don't have that Christmas cheer. I think it's important to note that we simply can't afford to do it right across Vincent as we want to. So certainly for those residents who are lucky enough to have town centres that already have some Christmas attention, how fortunate are they that they have got something when so many of the residents in the City of Vincent who also pay rates aren't being able to get that Christmas cheer. So, as I say, I look forward to the day when we have the sorts of finances, by whatever means, to be able to increase our Christmas displays. Until then, I thank the administration for putting forward a fiscally responsible program so that we can enjoy Christmas but also not overwhelm our ratepayers in terms of demands for their money. Does anyone else wish to speak to this item? Okay, so Councillor, you don't wish to say anything in conclusion? I'll put it. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you very much. So now we move to 12.3. Dorian sorry. No, so 12.3. Dorian Garden sponsorship and naming rights. Councillor Castle, you wish to move. Is there a seconder for this? Seconded, Councillor Wolf. Councillor Castle.
Thank you, Mayor. I may have some questions and comments that relate to the confidential attachments.
Can I just say, if you have any questions in relation to that, we will need to move into confidential session. Can you confirm whether you need to ask any? You really won't be able to ask any questions about this without referring to the confidential paper.
Yes,
so
that's
can I
correct.
confirm that you wish to do that?
Yes.
Okay. So, Councillor Castle, are you moving that we move into confidential session?
Yes.
Do I have a seconder for that? Seconded, Councillor Wolf. All those in favour? Okay, that's carried unanimously. We're now going into confidential session. Wendy, could you please turn off the live stream? And if we could clear the room, and we will be discussing. Okay, we've got the thumbs up. Okay, so we're now out of confidential session. So, Councillor Castle, you wish to move a procedural motion?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I would like to move a procedural motion to defer consideration of this item and request a special council meeting be held on Tuesday the 26th of May at 6 p.m. to consider item 12.3.
Do I have a seconder to that? For that, seconded, Councillor Wolf. All those in favour? Okay, that's carried unanimously. Okay, thank you very much. So now we'll move on to the notice of motion, which I've put forward in relation to the bus shelter advertising content. I've moved this. Can I see, do I have a seconder for this? Seconded, Councillor Greer. So I just want to confirm, was it a financial or an impartial interest? A financial interest. Okay, so just noting that Councillor Whedon is leaving because he has declared a financial interest in relation to this matter. Okay, so we've got we've got the seconder, Councillor Greer. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, people. This is in front of you. In the City of Vincent, we take the issue of public advertising very seriously. We have very few advertising areas over which we've got control. Specifically, though, we do have a contract over the bus shelters. And as such, I think it's probably timely for us to ensure that we have developed a policy around what we deem to be appropriate to have advertised on those shelters. It is proposed that we remove particular advertising that is would be consistent with that such as junk food and alcohol and tobacco and the like, which is consistent with the positions that we take under the public health plan. I've also proposed that we use the opportunity to remove advertising, the potential for advertising for fossil fuels, which is consistent with our positions around sustainability. In addition to that, I have been approached by other councils who are aware that we are leaders in the area of public health and have requested that the City of Vincent take the lead in terms of pushing for a ban on particularly junk food advertising and alcohol and the like, so the public health elements, in order to be able to propose to Wagga that they develop a statewide policy in relation to this matter. I took that request on board and thought, why not? It's consistent with what we would do and what we would push for, and that's why I've also incorporated that as a secondary as a second part of the motion. I believe that this is in line with what our residents expect, and we are not trying to address a particular mischief that has presented itself to date. But I would very much like to ensure that I am not being lobbied by outraged residents. Should there be inappropriate advertising that makes its way onto the bus shelters when it was never intended that we would be promoting that sort of advertising in the first place. So I hope people, I don't believe it's particularly controversial, but I am curious to hear what other councillors have to say about this, and I would hope that people would consider supporting it. Councillor Greer.
Thank you, Mayor Zamon, and thank you so much for bringing this motion forward. It's exceptionally important and very meaningful to what we have at our bus stops, what people see on their way to work or school or out and about. I do have one question. The report states that it doesn't apply to billboards, it's only to bus stops, and I was just wondering what control we would have over what's on billboards and why that would be out of scope.
Through you, Mayor Zamon, billboards, large format advertising of third-party products, so things that aren't sold on that particular property, that lives on private property, and probably got about a dozen sites with those existing billboards that you're probably familiar with, that have either got approval or been long-standing since before City of Vincent, right from City of Perth days. So those are private property approvals, so we don't have any control around that advertising content if they've already got existing approvals.
Great, thank you for that clarification, because I think perhaps the general public wouldn't understand the difference between a bus stop and a billboard. I did want to note to Council that I, very late in the piece, have emailed round a suggested wording for an amendment that has gone to all councillors via email, mostly to say that I really appreciate the list of items that Mayor Zaman has put forward. I think they're very clearly not acceptable to our community in terms of advertising. But like e-cigarettes, gambling and others in the list, I believe that arms manufacturers would also be an industry that would not be acceptable to our community to have on our bus stops and other things. So I have put forward a suggestion around that.
So are you moving that amendment? Okay. Yes, I'm quite happy to second that amendment.
Great. Thank you.
And I believe that the amendment is in line with the intent of what it is we're trying to achieve. Are you happy for us to speak to the amendment now? Okay. Does anyone else wish to speak to the amendment that's been put forward by Councillor Greer? Okay. Councillor Greer, do you wish to? Okay, we'll put the amendment. Okay. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. So now we've got the amended motion in front of you. Does anyone else wish to speak on this proposal? Councillor Wolf.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you very much for bringing this forward. I absolutely support the motion, and I'm particularly drawn in on the public health elements of the motion, so I'll just make a few comments in relation to that. To me, advertising really normalises the products that are known to be harmful to our health. So restricting the promotion of those products in our public spaces, it's a really practical and it's an evidence-based step that is very much aligned with our broader public health goals that we discussed tonight. And whilst lots of advertising regulations sit outside the remit of local government, this is another area, like benzene exposure being another, where we're nonetheless really stepping up and we're showing leadership on public health despite those gaps that are left by other tiers of government. So I'm very supportive. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Castle.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm very supportive of this notice of motion. Thank you for bringing it forward, and I think it very clearly aligns with several of the city's strategies and plans, most notably the public health plan. I have a question that relates to Councillor Greer's question about billboards. Would there be scope in the future when council considers extension of the licence or the approval to have a billboard in the City of Vincent, noting there's not very many, to include a clause to restrict the type of advertising that could be displayed there?
Through you, Mayor Zaman, the city's local planning policy for signage, that's due for review next year. So we'll, in advance of that, we'll work through the usual processes and channels in terms of revisiting some of those objectives and standards of that policy as well. As it exists, there is billboards are not supported, or third-party advertising is not supported, but there are broad objectives because anybody can still seek to deviate from that prescribed standard. So there are objectives though that specify public health type outcomes. We can seek to strengthen those and revisit that as part of that policy review.
Does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Puglia.
Yeah, I'm fully supportive of the proposed motion. I've just got one question that I don't know if it can be pulled out easily. Do we know how much revenue we receive from these bus stop advertising through the deal with ULA? Do we know? Or?
Through you, Mayor Zaman, we don't know off the top of our head, but we can advise separately.
Thank you. I guess it's just more from the point of view that if there is a shortfall, is there other avenues we could go through Healthways, or would they offset with this policy if we were going to do it? Is there funding there to offset if there was a loss from the media company because they, how can I put this? A lot of those companies that you sort of targeted, they rely on advertising to sell their product, the unhealthy products. I guess if they are not being able to, I guess, advertise on the bus stops, will that impact on what that quantum of revenue is that we currently get? Just to get an idea of, but yeah, I'm supportive of it. So yeah.
I think that'll be part of the discussion with Media, depending on what their view is of what the impact might be on their revenue.
Does anyone else wish to speak on this item? Okay, well, I'm just going to say in conclusion, I've noticed that the bus stops don't necessarily have a lot of this type of advertising anyway. There seems to be particularly a focus on events, which is really good, such as when we've had the women's soccer, those sorts of things, which has been right around Vincent. I also know someone who has in the past booked this advertising that it's actually quite hard to get. It's very, very competitive. And so I'm less concerned about not being able to get revenue. I think that it just means that it will be clearer that, and that only certain types of advertising will be tolerated. I also think that the agency sensibly would probably advise their clients that particular type of advertising in the city of Vincent probably wouldn't go down very well anyway, so it can actually be a protection for those clients to make sure they're not setting themselves up. Because I do believe some of the advertising that I've listed, if it did make an appearance in the city of Vincent, I suspect it would create some fairly adverse publicity for those companies, and this is just something that we're trying to avoid. We're just making it quite clear to say no, we don't want to, as Councillor Wolf said, we don't want to normalise advertising of these particular products. There's plenty that can be promoted, and it just needs to be consistent with the values that we hold here in the City of Vincent to make sure, and the wonderful public plans that we have as well that we promote. Okay, I'm going to put the amended proposal now. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, so we've come to the end of, yes, we can ask Councillor Whedon to join us, and there being no further business to conduct, I thank everyone who's in attendance and on the live stream, and I'm going to close the meeting at 7:34. Thank you.